Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to another podcast episode. I'm so happy to welcome Sarah Carter. She's the Senior Manager of Enterprise Strategy at Upstart, specifically in the Upstart Automotive Retail Division. Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
You know, some dealers may not be familiar with Upstart. You've been in automotive for over 10 years. You have an amazing retailing platform that is allowing dealers and consumers to meet online, to engage, to have more transparency in the affordability of a vehicle. But man, just when I thought we were making some strides in maybe embracing online retailing, inventory shortages come, MSRP plus addendums. Man, the world's turned upside down. Sarah, when you think of your company helping a dealer develop a modern retailing strategy, let's talk about two things. Let's first, what are the biggest challenges you see dealers are facing?
Yeah, you hit on multiple great points in regards to the current market conditions and the inventory challenges that we have. And, dealers are obviously facing, first and foremost is the inventory challenge, acquisition as well, used car acquisition. But, in addition, you've got challenges with hiring and or finding staffing. You're trying to educate and train up team members so that, obviously you're giving a good, solid customer experience and really driving that home. And we're met with challenges on both sides. And so I see that, dealers are trying to continue to move forward, in technology that they're offering. They want solutions that communicate, helps to make them more agile and able to pivot in regards to, what customers are looking for, working with the challenges in the marketplace right now. So, dealers, I know there's a number of battles and obstacles, and obviously it's been a very good market for some time now as well. And so, that goes hand in hand, but overall, it's, what is going to happen in the market, I see is the conversations that we're having with dealers is, how do I prepare? How do I consolidate operating costs, make sure I'm driving a good customer experience, especially with what customers are faced with in these times? How do I, support from a supply standpoint? And how do I acquire inventory?
Ooh, these are all good challenges. Let's flip the script because we're going to come back to all these. Let's talk about the consumer side. For years, I've kind of laughed prior to this problem, check availability. It's always a joke button. I was like, man, that if that vehicle's on your website, 99% of the time it's there because, inventory feeds today can be updated every few hours, at least 3 or 4 times a day. And they're like, yeah, we just want leads. But today, it's one of the most popular buttons because no one is confident that the vehicle that is being displayed is really there because there's just a handful of vehicles. I was talking to a GM dealer in Canada, and they had 6 new cars on the lot. They normally had over 100. So, Sarah, when you think of the challenges the consumer is facing, what are you seeing?
Yeah, when I'm out and about, I do travel quite a bit, Brian, and I'm sure you do the same. We ask people outside of the industry and their car buying experiences, and friends and family as well, just to kind of get a better understanding. Even colleagues who are in the market, we're in this business as well, and there are many challenges that we face as consumers, not even just automotive, but if we're looking at vehicles specifically, is our search time is much more extensive. We're having to invest much more time. We obviously have busy lives, and it's very challenging to dedicate the time to, look and find inventory when you're looking for a specific vehicle or even, something more generalized. So there's a lot more hours being put in. There's more frustrations, talking about that check availability and just the, inventory and movement of inventory. how do we provide solutions, and also how do we, empathy, compassion, right, in the process on both sides to understanding where we're at. I think most consumers realize and understand at this point, because we've been into the inventory shortages for some time now, that this is the current market. Obviously they're facing this in other areas in purchasing and acquisition. So how do we align with that? And that, how do we adjust to the consumer challenges? Because we all have been in it, whether we've shopped for a vehicle or we're shopping for something else, there are, consistently challenges in the marketplace.
Yeah, I'm in a new development here in Boca Raton, and I just saw a post. We have a Facebook group for our community, and someone posted, hey, I closed in March, right? So here we are in August. I closed in March. I'm still waiting for my stove hood. Is anybody else having that problem? And somebody posted, yeah, well, we closed last month and we're still waiting for a hood. You're absolutely right. People are frustrated with the supply chain dynamics, with the uncertainty. I just had a friend whose young son crashed their Bronco, which of course is a new model. The dealer said, no problem, we will fix it, but we have no idea if it's going to be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months because of part shortages. So, man, the consumer and the dealer in this kind of no-win situation. The dealer wishes they could fix the car, but they can. I'd hate to be running a body shop in this market. So we have to turn this conversation around. How do we get this to be a win-win situation for consumers and dealers in light of the current market conditions? And we're going to address that in today's podcast. But Sarah, let's go from a high level. If a dealer who's listening to this podcast is not familiar with Upstart, if you had your elevator pitch, you had a minute to tell them, hey, this is what we do, this is the problem we solve, how would you respond?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brian. So in regards to Upstart Auto Retail, what we're, it's an omni-channel experience at a higher level. And I know that's a term that we use quite often. And I think you said it very well with, connected retail, so to speak, is that we offer online retailing solutions. So essentially buy online resources for digital retailing. And then what we do is we provide an in-store solution that really aligns cohesively for the customer, because the experience traditionally that we've seen is you have an online experience that differentiates in many cases from the experience that consumers or customers are getting in the dealership. So what we do is we align these two. We integrate solutions so that our tools speak with the tools existing, CRM, from an acquisition standpoint for trades, you name it. So highly flexible, agile solution that can really be flexible to the customer journey or path to purchase, as well as the dealership and the experience that they're wanting to give to the customer in regards to offering those solutions. So both sides, again, with the in-store experience, it is very flexible in the sense that we allow the customer and the sales rep to be able to engage and complete the purchase in an area, in the service department or on the floor or outside. Our tools are highly flexible and they allow for that experience that the customer is looking for, and of course allowing them the flexibility to control that experience if that's something they're looking to do.
Well, Sarah, I've been talking about digital retailing and modern retailing for a number of years. In fact, man, it has to be over 5 years ago that I was invited to moderate a panel hosted by DealerTrack. This is before they really even came out with what that time was a digital retailing solution. Really only worked for used cars, and a few dealers were using it. And now fast forward, if you would have told me 5-7 years into the future, Brian, dealers would still be using different tools online than in the store, I would have said, no, I mean, why would they do it? But the truth of the matter is that digital retailing, when it first came out, the promises sounded great, but the resistance to change was so strong. The OEMs have pushed to put digital retailing tools on dealer websites, but the true breakthrough is when the tools on the website and how they look and how they feel and how they calculate are the exact same tools in the showroom. A few months ago, we had our digital marketing strategies conference. You were there, and I came back out of that conference and penned a LinkedIn article that said we should stop calling it digital retailing. We need to be calling it connected retailing, because the biggest breakthrough is the confidence, that customer experience that says, I did this work online, I came in the store, and I picked up right where I left off using the same interface, the same tools. Sarah, that's the approach that Upstart has taken. Why do you think dealers still are afraid to change those desking tools that they always used, or the manual process, instead of seeing the benefits of a truly connected experience online and in store? What's your team seeing in the field? Because if we were really honest, we're probably not as transformed as an industry as we once had hoped.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's another great question, because, it is, we do see obviously the challenges and resistance. Having, been in the industry for almost 20 years, I actually did internet sales process training early on in the industry, as far as, just from a lead gen perspective, and helped develop teams and train. And, I think the biggest thing, the resistance comes from, there is an investment, there always is, for change and to make improvement, right? That's just part of life. That said, we offer very detailed and extensive training on our side. That is no additional cost to our partners. So I think that helps to alleviate that. But essentially, I think the biggest challenge is the investment into transitioning to, but at the same point, there's so much reward from it. When you talk about the ability to really change the narrative within the organization or within the dealership, as well as with your staff, and then also creating a customer experience that really aligns. Because when you talk about when a customer goes online, like you were saying, they do any portion of the purchase, purchasing online, and they come in store, they traditionally have to start all over again. Our solution actually allows them to pick up right where they left off. So then they can create this experience, they can drive efficiency, but the training and support has to be there, because I see that as one of the bigger challenges when you're taking a new approach in the dealership like this.
Sarah, I'm glad you brought up training, because I think one of the other points that people underestimated is the time it takes to transform a sales process. Meaning, a general manager, I believe, understands they need to adapt and change. They see larger public companies coming to market with a branded sales process. They see the competition of new entrants and more consumer direct threats from the OEM. They see it, but they don't know what that future looks like. They only know what they know. So one of the challenges that I've seen is, number one, technology is installed, someone comes in for a few days, they leave, and of course, things go back to the way they used to. And number two, a platform that's not flexible enough to meet the culture or the style of the dealership, right? A forced workflow. The ability is limited to allow a consumer to do their credit app first, and then their trade, and then start playing around with payments. So let's talk about those two things. How flexible is Upstart Automotive Retail's software that would allow a dealer's culture to kind of change the workflow into the way they think is best to create that awesome customer experience?
Yeah, so I'm glad we were discussing the flow too, because we are highly configurable. We adapt to the format where essentially the layout of the store. So if it's a single point of contact, we can align very well. If you want to change the sales process, we absolutely have the configurability to do so. We also work, with very, quite a few traditional environments, meaning that we hand off to F&I, and it's a very seamless transition. So that's important, I think, in any tool in the environment we're in today, is to be able to be flexible, to adapt to the culture, to the environment that the general management and ownership teams want to enforce and or incorporate into their organization.
So let's be a little bit more tactical, because these are questions that dealers ask me. It's like, all right, Sarah, the person starts online. Maybe they've put in their trade. Maybe they've done their credit app, and they're coming in the test drive. Then it comes to penciling the deal. And oftentimes dealers and sales managers are kind of in love with their desking tools. Are the current customers who are using Upstart, are they doing the desking all through your system? Are they doing that, or does your system at some point have to hand off to a desking tool? Because this is a big question. Some DR tools don't offer in-store desking, and you have to pass the deal record into another system, and some do the complete transaction. Where are you in providing a desking solution for the continuation of that online deal in the store?
We do have a full desking solution. So great thing is through our platform, the sales representative does not have to leave the customer, and we allow for the configurability or the flexibility for the managers and general management ownership to determine how they want to deliver pencils. So if they want to control the first pencil, they can. If they want to do automatic first pencil, they can. And the concept is to keep that sales rep with the customer, to continue to build trust and loyalty, and to not compromise, growth and experience. So all of this can be done, and we do have a full desking solution, and there's full communication. So and this is always something that surprised me, Brian, too, is, when you need a TO, sales rep has to walk away to get the manager, right? We actually have it built into the functionality so that they can communicate via text and through the desk, in order to obviously alert for TO. Things like, full desking solution, pushing back. We actually can even do real-time approvals built into, and deliver real-time approvals with manager approval or directly as well. So when we talk about the configurability, flexibility, there's a lot of that even built into the desking solution. So that's what we're here to do, is adapt to the environment in which, management team wants to run the business internally.
Great. And let's talk about one other area that dealers always ask when we talk about a connected retailing experience is F&I products. Like, folks are used to oftentimes a menu selling system, in the F&I office. I've seen other digital retailing tools not doing a menu like good, better, best. They just offer, hey, this is the silver package and gold package. Tell us a little bit about how the F&I products are introduced either online or in store, and what does that visual look like? Is it more like good, better, best, or is it more a conversational flow? Because it seems that different companies have taken different approaches.
Yeah. So again, we do have a lot of, quite a bit of configurability, but by default, it is a good, better, best scenario. And we do have the ability to build out bundles. Venn dynamic, obviously, for majority of the warranty companies. And so we can build out those bundles in a good, better, best. We offer monthly payment presentation. So it's a very solid menu. We also have a full a la carte. You have brochures, videos that can be incorporated as well. And you have the flexibility to determine where you're going to present the menu and who, of course, as well. It doesn't have to be a single point of contact in store. As an example, again, we have F&I teams that present through our tool as well.
Great. When you think about the need for dealers to create a exceptional customer experience, especially, and I've written about this, that if some OEMs want to go direct to consumer, and if that's allowed, and if a consumer is in a metro area where there's 2 or 3 dealers shown as viable choices for them to take delivery, How does that dealer make sure that they are top of mind? How do they make sure that they're the one who's picked for service or as that delivery center? And it comes down to old-fashioned customer service and marketing. What's some of the feedback you could share with dealers listening to today's podcast who haven't moved to connected retailing, maybe have one tool on their website, a different tool in the store? They know that there's some friction, or they know that there's not as much fluidity and familiarity with the tools from the consumer perspective. So as an anecdotally, I'm not asking for proof or a big study, but what are you telling dealers you're seeing from a customer feedback loop? A dealer who was operating traditionally or two different tools, and they go all in and they have a connected retailing experience.
Yeah, no, yes. So have a few stories, and more recently too, with some recent transitions to our connected retail solutions, so online and in store. And what I'm hearing, what we're seeing is that we are seeing dealers more progressive in the sense of looking to see how can we consolidate operating expenses to prepare for maybe what is to come. Obviously we all are in that position of what is next from a macro standpoint and where we're at. So definitely seeing that a lot, but I've had recently, multiple stores that have taken on a unique buying experience. They're absolutely marketing and advertising this. It's more of like the Apple Genius concept in some cases, where they're really trying to adapt to the conversations around direct to consumer, providing that, that exceptional experience, as you had mentioned and of course had shared. So it's really twofold. But that said, is those that are doing that, they actually, the sales teams are giving really positive feedback, and their customers are giving really positive feedback, because it's taking you're condensing the amount of time it takes to get to the sale. So you're driving efficiency for the sales rep and the customer. And just, that's, I think, really how it builds is, through word of mouth and just traditional, some advertising and marketing of concept, as we're transitioning to help educate buyers as well. We always, and this is something that we as a part of our mission statement at Upstart, is customer first. I think it's something we really, need to get back to in an essence of how do we drive that consumer experience first and foremost, because essentially that will trickle down into everything else that we do. And that's something we're absolutely seeing with our partners. And, it's wonderful to see the feedback and hear the results. And what's interesting too, is we've been doing more data studies on PVR and looking to see the differences between the traditional in-store environment, meaning traditional, just historically what we've done in our business, and then this transition to that connected retail, where they're essentially picking up right where they left off in store and creating that cohesive approach. And grosses are going up. So PVR is definitely increasing. And I know that, we've said this in the past, and we've used studies in the past in regards to the online retailing PVR increase, but we're seeing this quite heavily in the in-store, and it's significant.
Yes. And Sarah, I'm glad you brought it up, because, not having been an F&I manager, it's not for me to say anything other than I know that they are the most important and valuable players in the traditional sales process. But as I've moved my mindset from, let's not protect old frameworks if they need to be reimagined. And so I visited single point of contact stores. I've seen connected retailing within F&I, meaning that the website and the sales associates bringing up F&I before they go in the office, or doing the whole thing. PVR is up, up, and up. I'm not hearing anybody say PVR is down. So there are a group of dealers say, Brian, I don't want to change anything because I'm afraid about my PVR going down. I think that's an excuse now. There's enough data out there to validate the significant upside to that. And I think that, like you said, Upstart can handle any configuration or flow that the dealer wants. But I want to hit one other thing. I've written about real-time retailing trying to eliminate forms for lead capture and serving and providing consumers information when they're on the website or in the parking lot. And today's employees may be even doing some remote work. And I want to talk about the mobile experience. I mean, talk about how your retail platform is enabling both the consumer and the dealership employees to do more on their mobile phone, because some DR tools were never meant to be mobile optimized.
Yes, well, So we actually recently came out with a new user interface, or an upgraded, essentially, digital retailing solution or online retailing solution. And in that, our focus was mobile first. When you look, I would say it's probably even higher in some cases, but what we're seeing on average is between 65 and 70% of the visits to website are on mobile. So that was definitely first and foremost for us, is how do we drive the experience in an online environment and allow the customer to choose the path to purchase, whatever they want to complete online. Absolutely. And what's interesting is, as we've adapted to this, we've actually seen credit applications go up substantially. And I think that actually opens up the opportunity, as you were saying too, with the traditional lead generation environment, where, from a lead gate perspective, and where do we put that lead gate is, and I know this is debatable, and by no means do I want to enforce one way or the other. I really, it's about flexibility and adapting with one's, philosophy. But that said, is when you look at the experience we're trying to create, which is trust and a consumer experience first, we are better off probably in most cases to actually create a different environment than the lead gen concept, so to speak, and give that customer the opportunity. Because what we're finding, like I said, is credit apps are going up substantially, and we're not asking for information as early on. But if there's a good process in store and they're more of a traditional environment, I'm not opposed, just, definitely seeing some statistics that are driving towards a more transparent experience.
Sarah, you brought up an important challenge that dealers are facing, and I want to loop back to that and close on this conversation about acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
Dealers with tight new car inventory supply and some threats to the standard franchise model are realizing that the only thing they can control and that they do know inside and out is used cars. So having a more intentional used car acquisition strategy, that means that their websites, powered by technology like Upstart, can be a great buying center hub. So the question I have is, the retail values of trades. Which integrations with trade databases do you currently support, and how are dealers finding using Upstart as an acquisition platform?
Yeah. So yes, we do. Absolutely. We have multiple integrations in regards to acquisition. So, trade pending, KBB ICO, AccuTrade, Black Book. We're not, that's the one thing. One of the things about Upstart is we're not trying to reinvent the wheel in areas where, we see others that have expertise. We want to be able to communicate with existing tools within dealerships and the resources that they work to. So we do have the ability to integrate those in an online and from the in-store standpoint for acquisition and booking out vehicles. We have integrations there, of course, as well. And really what we're driving here is, again, that experience, because the experience itself and the customer experience and getting them to purchase, and of course, the acquisition opportunity within on trade, that's essentially what we're trying to do, is just create a cohesive experience to help build that trust, to increase that, acquisition likelihood or probability.
That's great. And dealers need to understand that in your retail platform, the consumer can start anywhere. So they can have a CTA button on their trade page that goes right into Upstart's trade process. It doesn't force them, into a workflow that isn't aligned with the CTA button. That would be the same with getting pre-approved. And I think that dealers need to think a little bit more intentionally about what the process looks like to a consumer who may want to sell their car and get the best price. Sarah, I am so happy to see the developments of the platform, to hear from colleagues that the platform is doing a great job for them. And dealers should also know that Upstart is a platinum sponsor of the upcoming Modern Retailing Conference. It's November 13th, 14th, and 15th. This year, the conference has 5 educational tracks. There's a track on sales process, which is so important. There's a marketing track, a Google Analytics 4 track, an HR track. And Sarah mentioned some of the challenge dealers are facing with, acquiring the right talent and training them. And I'm really excited that there's a creative track led by Paul Daly and his colleagues. This is the conference where we're going to put under the microscope what dealers are doing to transform the retail shopping experience, to create an exceptional customer experience, to reimagine what the online and in-store connection looks like. And Sarah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what your company will be showcasing in the exhibit hall and participating in the workshops. You excited to come out to Palm Beach in November?
Oh, yes, we're very excited, looking forward to it, and looking forward to Automotive State of the Union as well, and looking forward to seeing you, Brian. We'll see you on multiple occasions here in the fall, and looking forward to it. And of course, to everyone, looking forward to seeing dealers and vendors alike. So I just appreciate your time greatly. It's been wonderful sitting here with you, chatting about the industry. And I'd like to also share with anybody out there, anyone interested or questions in regards to the conversation or beyond. Upstart, you can reach us at our website, upstart.com, of course, the auto retail division. And of course, my email is Sarah, sarah.carter@upstart.com. And Brian, just always a pleasure.
Well, Sarah, it's exciting to hear you echo my thoughts of that article that I penned a few months ago, that we really should be shifting our focus to connected retailing, let dealers evolve, of course, at a pace that they're comfortable with. But in order to have connected retailing, you have to have a flexible platform that's a win-win for consumers and the dealer. And of course, I believe you've solved that problem with your omni-channel solution. So thank you for taking time with us today. If this is the first time you've listened to a podcast, you should know there are dozens of interviews on my podcast channel with industry disruptors, leaders, and innovators like the team at Upstart. And you can listen to those podcasts on the Apple Podcast channel, Google Play, or on the native Libsyn platform. So it's brianpash.libsyn.com. Anyway, grab your phone, listen to some other podcast episodes, and then get your tickets booked for the Modern Retailing Conference. I will say this many times as we get closer to November, but the conference will sell out, number one. Number two, the hotel block. We got amazing prices at the O Resort and Spa. So get your rooms booked, because outside the room block, you can pay twice as much on hotels.com or, TripAdvisor. So don't book late. And more importantly, this is an open conference for OEMs, vendors, and the dealer community. And we're excited. We're excited that we'll be announcing the Google Analytics 4 specification for the automotive industry, and companies like Upstart, all the website companies, DR companies, chat companies, everyone's working together to support this unified specification. This is an exciting time. So don't miss MRC in November. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time on a future podcast session.